All right. Joining us today in the pits of engineering magic at Santa Cruz is Kiran from Santa Cruz for this episode of Between Two Wheels. And we get to pick his brain and see kind of what magic he brings to the table in the world of suspension tuning, I believe, is your primary focus. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, ride quality. So like I'm a ride quality product manager.
Okay.
But a big part of that obviously is suspension.
For sure. Sweet. So, I think for me, I was curious to ask you with respect to the Bullit, because that's the bike we rode. There's some challenges that you guys wanted to surmount by going to 4-bar on the Vala and the Bullit. Did you feel in all your kind of testing and gathering of data and obviously riding bikes really well, did you feel that those challenges were not something you could overcome with suspension tuning and setup? I guess I'm curious to know, I know there was a big packaging element to getting the stuff all in the way you wanted, but was there ride quality stuff that you just truly felt like, man, we can't get there?
I think that it's quite a bit easier to make a virtual pivot point linkage work when you don't have a drive unit.
Yeah, for sure.
That was kind of the driving factor there, was that drive unit takes up a lot of really important real estate to package the lower link on a VPP bike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that was the driving factor was we weren't really able to achieve our linkage goals with a VPP linkage with the drive unit in the way.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, there's obviously hot debate at the shop about is this a good thing that you guys are going this way? And for me, I kind of at first was a little, I guess, rattled because we've been a Santa Cruz dealer now for almost 27 or 8 years.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, oh no, what's happening?
Yeah, and sold out.
Well, not even that. More just, it's a separator from other stuff. But I must admit, after riding the bike, it was phenomenal.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really, really stoked on how the bike rode. And I have an old Bullit from the previous generation that I love. And I totally could see that the stuff you guys were doing was borne out in the way the bike rode.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, obviously you come at this with a significant level of engineering resources. When you're out riding, say you're riding by yourself, what kind of stuff happens that makes you go, oh yeah, I don't have my calculator out right now, but I know that I'm on something that's doing what I want. Is there just a zone you get into on the bike where we're there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of it is seat of the pants, honestly. We know tuning philosophy and linkage philosophy and stuff, but a lot of it is really done without any data acquisition. Actually, a lot of it is just based on experience and feel.
Okay.
And I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is there something that I feel is limiting my experience right now?
Right.
And then it's kind of your biggest problem will rise to the top in every scenario.
So managing braking bumps, for instance, if you felt like that particular piece of a ride wasn't doing what you wanted, you'd potentially go after that problem and see where it took you, type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Example, if you're if off the brakes the bike feels phenomenal, but on the brakes it's not doing what you want, that would be maybe I'd look into the anti-rise or there's a kind of a general process that we go through for all that stuff.
Cool. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned this. I noticed in our travels that we haven't really seen anything that looks like it has data acquisition on it.
Yeah.
So it's telemetry and that kind of stuff not a thing that you guys do much of?
No.
Cool.
Almost zero.
And do you feel that, is that for a particular reason? Do you guys just not feel there's value in that data? Or is it just that you've got enough, I guess, wisdom collected that you're able to skip that part of it?
I think data is really beneficial, in a racing environment, when you're trying to get your damper set up to your known happy place without a lot of time. In terms of developing the ride quality of the bike, I don't see it as being quite as beneficial, and there's a lot of added complexity and potential variables with setup. I think we've had the most success just relying on our experience and our feel to get the bikes to perform how we like.
That's cool.
There's a lot of data we use to check what we're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But in terms of data acquisition, we rely more on sensation.
Real world testing and stuff. Yeah. So when you get to a point where you're coming to your ideal outcome with a particular bike, what are the areas of compromise where you're like, man, if this was just a market of one and it was just Kiran that was getting the bike and would be the happiest customer ever, where do you go, okay, I got to back away from certain things because I need this to appeal to a broader audience? Or do you have to do that?
That's a good question. I think, I would say, the worse the suspension product is, the more compromise you have to have.
Okay.
So, if your suspension isn't very high quality, I would say there's more of a compromise to get support that maybe a faster rider would want.
Right.
At the expense of sensitivity or harshness.
Okay.
I think as we are getting better with suspension, there's actually less compromise.
Cool.
And then when you factor in the adjustment, my ideal scenario is that I am able to have what I would like. Maybe with the adjusters or the compression adjusters a little bit more turned in.
Got it.
But then somebody who's maybe newer to the sport could open up the adjuster and have a great experience as well.
I guess there's pretty broad range in a lot of these newer shocks too. They're quite capable compared to some of the stuff we started out on.
Yeah, and I think that there used to be a little bit more division in terms of what setups were preferred in the group.
Within your group here?
Yeah, or outside testers.
Oh, okay.
When the linkages were objectively worse. So I think, as we're getting better at it, it seems like people are aligning on kind of what works.
What's good, yeah. Interesting. So with the Bullit, they talked yesterday a bit about just how much they learned and you guys learned through the Vala. Do you feel that this learning will carry over into bikes that are still VPP, in terms of going forward? And I understand you guys are looking at the end result where we're kind of should we stay on this particular track at the potential expense of the end result? But do you feel like the stuff you're learning from being able to do these 4-bar bikes that have links that you can remake easily, will that help you in the process with the other bikes? Quickly before we started, you and I were chatting about what the complexity of making a VPP bike and potentially having to make mules and change things. Will this help you guys streamline the process everywhere? These two bikes?
I think our learning with 4-bar, every bike that we do, we learn from.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think we make bikes frequently enough to where we can make them and be oh yeah, maybe by the time it reaches the market, there's a couple of things that we would make better about it or do differently. And in that case, we're learning a lot, especially 4-bar. Kind of the options are opened up in terms of anti-rise and braking. For example, our learnings with 4-bar is influencing some of the decisions that we're currently making for V10.9.
Okay, cool.
In terms of braking and stuff. So
yeah,
I mean everything. The 4-bar platform is super flexible, so it's really easy to get, what we want. It's also easy for other brands to get what they want, which could be totally different.
Right.
It's just kind of a more flexible platform.
More of an open system.